I really like G.I. Joe. I may only be 20 years old, but I grew up on a lot of older shows like DuckTales, Thundercats, and Brave Star. But out of all those older TV shows, G.I. Joe and Transformers were the ones I watched more than any other. And while Transformers is still well known by many, I find that other people my age and younger don't really have a clue what G.I. Joe is or how amazing that show, its comics, or its action figures were. I remember a few years back this guy I knew was walking around with a Cobra shirt on. I walked up to him and I told him that his shirt was awesome, and his reply was, "Oh, what is it? I just thought it looked cool." I was really saddened to hear that someone my age had no idea what the Cobra symbol was. And every time I make a G.I. Joe reference to anyone my age, they just look confused. It absolutely baffles me that no one my age knows what the heck G.I. Joe is. It was such a great show. Duke leading the Joes against Cobra and their evil leader, Cobra Commander. The constant fight that Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow had because of their past. The great members of each team such as Roadblock, Destro, Shipwreck, and Zartan. It was just great. Although I always felt the show got a bit weaker when Serpentor showed up. I honestly never liked the guy and I always preferred Cobra Commander over him. Then the animated movie happened and introduced Cobra La. Galabulus was awesome despite his goofy name, Pythona was pretty cool, and Nemesis Enforcer was just this epic walking tank. So much was thrown at him and he just took it all and kept moving. I know there was more after that. There was another animated show, but I never really got into that much, either Transformers or that after their respective animated movies. I didn't get into much after either of them. Although I did watch Resolute and Renegades, and those were good. I liked Renegades a lot. I liked the idea of them being fugitives and Cobra hunting them. And Resolute was probably one of my favorite animated shows from G.I. Joe. The darker story and the epic battles made Cobra feel like a real threat. It was really awesome. I also didn't read too many of the comics because when I was younger I had no idea where to get comic books. But I did read the ones that came with the 2 packs for the action figures, and those were awesome. My favorite ones were Snake Eyes when he was training to become a true ninja, Falcon vs. Nemesis Enforcer, and Storm Shadow vs. Firefly. That was a very personal fight, and I really liked that one. That made me like Firefly a lot more. That's why he's one of my favorite G.I. Joe characters. And the figures that came with them were great. I still have a couple of my Joes, and they're all awesome. Now, when I talk about Joes, I do talk about the action figures from the 25th anniversary line and beyond that. Those are the ones that I personally grew up with. And they have great posability, awesome weapons, and cool designs. Even the figures for the live action movies were good. Oh, yeah, the live action movies. The 2 G.I. Joe live action movies are not the best. I really don't like the first one. It didn't feel like G.I. Joe at all. Nobody except Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow looked right, or their actual costumes. Those stupid armored suits didn't have to be there when they're running through France with the big rocket launcher or whatever it was that shot the nanobites. I hardly remember. It was so terrible. And Cobra Commander, what they did to him, I don't even want to talk about it. Now, the second movie, while far from good, is still leagues better than the first. Cobra Commander is proper this time around, and the story is clearly taking cues from Renegades, which definitely improved it and made it way better than the first one. The whole fight with Snake Eyes and Jinx that they have with the ninjas on the mountains, that was epic. That was such an epic fight, and I loved every minute of that. I did like The Rock as Roadblock, even though he didn't rhyme the whole movie like he was supposed to. I would have loved to have seen The Rock rhyme for an entire movie. That would have just been hilarious. I would have loved it, even though it would have been absolutely corny. And, you know, a lot of modern creations definitely take inspiration from G.I. Joe. I think the most notable of these is Overwatch. I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, Talon's clearly Cobra. Overwatch's G.I. Joe, Widowmakers, Baroness, Reapers, Destro, Genji and Hanzo are literally Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. I mean, I could go on and on about how they are similar, but I'm not going to waste your time and keep talking about that. You know, I honestly just wish we can get something new from G.I. Joe. I mean, the toy line just ended not long ago. The comics are still going, but I have no clue if they're good or not. I mean, like, who the heck is this lady? And why is she on the cover of half the comics? I've never heard of her. I don't know who she is. She looks just like a female Snake Eyes. I really don't trust modern comics or their writers, so I'm not going to read any of them. And they have no plans for a new cartoon or even a new live action show, which I would definitely be interesting for G.I. Joe. I'd like to see how they do a live action show. It just looks like G.I. Joe is fading away. It's turning into a distant memory. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it seems likely that it will. I guess I'll just have to remember G.I. Joe for what it was. It was a great franchise that I still love to this day. And even though most won't remember it by the time I'm old, at least I know that some will. And knowing? Well, knowing is half the battle. Alright, that'll be all for this video. If you like the video, click that like button and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing this as a new series. It's going to be called the I Love series. It's just me talking about things that I love, like G.I. Joe and probably some Transformers and bunch of different things like that. And I'm also gonna kind of do another thing here with the I Hate series, so I can rant about stuff and complain about things that I don't like. So if you want to see more content from me, then be sure to subscribe to me, and you'll definitely get more of this in the future. That'll be it for this video. Game Nasher signing out.